You're good.
You call this meeting, council meeting of April 19th to order. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the agenda for April 19th, 2021 council meeting as presented. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin Faulkner moving, and I have Paul. I think Paul Heffer's hand went up for seconding. I'm going to hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accept the agenda for the April 19th, 2021 council meeting as presented. So Deputy Reeve-Sipe.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
And Reeve-Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Just before we go any further, I'm wondering if I could ask the members of the public to turn off their video. And if and when they want to speak, they can turn the video back on. It makes it very difficult for me to see all my council members and make sure that their questions are getting answered. So I would appreciate that if anybody from the public's out there to turn their video off and leave your audio on, and you can turn it on and speak up. Thank you kindly. Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve-Sipe.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. I just wanted to let the council know that I am going to be declaring a pecuniary interest on check number 506553. The check is made out to Warden Updegrove H&R Human Resources or Consulting. I'm an employee of that company, and therefore I am going to be declaring a conflict and will not be voting on the bills and accounts.
Thank you very much, Deputy Reeve-Sipe. Anyone else? And I'm not seeing any. Again, councilors, if I don't see your hand, please speak up. Moving on now to public comments. Opportunity for members of the public to speak to any item of business on the agenda. You have 2 minutes per person, and this is your time to speak to it. Is there any members of public out there would like to speak to this? Anything on the agenda tonight?
Yeah, so there are a number of members of the public in the meeting here. So at this time, if you wanted to, now would be the opportunity for you to turn on your video and turn on your audio, and then you will pop up for council to see here.
Carson, I'm not seeing anyone. Are you?
No one has unmuted their microphones.
Okay, thank you very kindly. Consent agenda that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent agenda 5.1.1 to 5.1.2, and further the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.3 to 5.3.2 for information. Do I have a mover? I have Paul Hefner moving, Chris Palmer seconding. Would anybody like to pull anything out of those for conversation? I'm going to point out, I'm going to pull one out here, and it's 5.3.2. And it's the township's media release on the Park Recreation and Culture Master Plan. We've waited a very long time for this. We put a lot of work into this as a council and especially as a staff. And it is now here, and we're going to the public viewing scene, and we want the public to get involved. So I'd just like to bring it forward to the public that's listening, and we'll be reading the papers. We would really appreciate it if everyone would step forward. It would really be nice if you would have your questions or comments before we pass the master plan rather than come to us after. So I'm not sure of the rest of council, but I'm very happy to be this far with it. And we will be going to the public consultations, and I would appreciate it if people would step forward. Thank you. So I have a mover and a seconder, and I'm not seeing any hands or conversation that wants to take place. Carson, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Reeve-Bailey. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent items 5.1.1 to 5.1.2, And further, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.3 to 5.3.2 for information. So Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum, Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
So Deputy Reeve Sipe has declared a conflict of interest on this agenda item. So Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you kindly. The next is public meetings, hearings, and delegations. 6.1 is the Chant Limited presentation of the Howson Dam Phase 1 report. Before I hand it over to them, I just want to make it clear to the council, we'll be speaking about moving forward this a little further in the agenda. So I'd appreciate if we could keep the questions all to the report itself at this time. And I'm going to hand it over to the representation from Chant Limited.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right. My name is Wayne Brooks. I'm the Director of Projects for Chant Limited. I understand 10 minutes to go through this. Carson, are you putting up the presentation?
I've given you presenter rights, Wayne, so you should be able to pull it up on your end now.
Oh, just to share. Okay.
Yep.
Right, so through this, and hopefully everyone can see my screen now. If anyone can't, please let me know. We put together a quick slideshow so we can keep this within the 10 minutes and then answer some questions at the tail end. So what I'm going to do on the for the agenda is go through the scope of work, findings from previous studies that are relevant, the site investigations that were carried out, testing results that were found, a summary and conclusion, and then a recommendation section, which we can follow with questions afterwards. Please feel free to stop me if you do have any questions, at least members of council. The scope of work, in accordance with the RFP, was to perform engineering site work to confirm suitability of the existing concrete dam for rehabilitation. That included the reviewing of the existing reports and documents, field work on the south dam structure, which was in the RFP was 10 concrete cores. You'll see that we did more. Assess concrete soundness and strength, gauge suitability for rehabilitation, and then a recommendation of practical rehabilitation methods. Previous studies, what we felt relevant to use was the KGS study, because it was the most recent related previous study. That was from May 22nd, 2018 PowerPoint that would have been presented to your council. And from that study, there was the 4 options of do nothing, which wasn't feasible, decommissioning of the dam, which required further studies, rehabilitation, which was dependent on the concrete dam condition. And they had given through a couple options the replacement cost of $3.9 to $6.2 million. This is a slide of our site investigation that we've just completed. February 2nd to February 5th, we were on site with the drilling subcontractor. I've highlighted each of the yellow areas to show the borehole locations that we extracted the concrete samples from in each of the sluiceways. On the next slide, you'll see the orientation of these. So there was upstream, downstream in the sluice space, and then one vertical at the tail end to try to find the keyway that was to exist. You can see that bottom where it shows 1.5 meters. That was a keyway at the tail end of the tail race. Some of the bays required drilling from the top of the sluiceway. We had to make a field judgment. You can see, I put a couple pictures here to see mounting the drill to get this this angle. We couldn't because of the deterioration of the concrete. So we made a judgment call and we came in from the top. And at least from the crest, you could see we could mount the drill to get the core sample out. Okay. So the evaluation that came from that, basically you can see 2 cores here, and we kind of gave the best and the worst, showing severe fractures, fractured planes, numerous hairline cracks, moderate to severe deterioration, and over 2-inch large aggregates that were discovered. Like I had said earlier, we did 12 cores instead of the 10 that were asked for. We did that at our cost, but there was a couple that we just, the core samples weren't good enough, so, or in a good enough location to show us what we needed to see. So the average concrete compressive strength is 28.8 MPa, which is under the 30 MPa that is the current standard. That's Ontario Provincial Standard Specification, Canadian Standards Association specifications for compressive strength of the concrete in a dam. The lowest value is 20.5. So the initial conclusions is the host concrete is described as being very poor condition using OPSS, Lake and River Improvement Act, and CSA criteria. Concrete does not meet the current standards noted above based on the strength of the concrete, which was the minimum 30 MPa that we discussed, and therefore the dam does not qualify for rehabilitation. So on to the recommendation slide. Chan came up with 2 revitalization options. These are not all cast in stone, they're just a couple that we've thrown together. One, you can see the first one is the upstream face, adding mass concrete with granular fill compacted, and just basically extending the crest, resurfacing the sluiceway. This is a simple diagram. It doesn't show any anchoring into the existing concrete or anything like that. It's just for visual representation. And the existing bridge above to be removed. That includes the piers down to this elevation. So you would basically have one weir all the way across. We marked up this diagram just to basically show a cofferdam that would have to be installed to do this work. And then this little black shaded area basically shows the expanded footprint of the dam using this option. The second one is a downstream addition, which basically mirrors the other one. Same thing, you're flattening out the crest, you're just gonna have a rollway on the downstream side, adding a mass of concrete with compacted fill, bridge removed, and then the piers will be cut down to deck elevation. So you'll have one weir, same elevation all the way across, okay? Again, this isn't showing any anchoring or other measures. It's simply a visual representation. And this kind of shows the same thing. The notes here are hard to see, but these drawings, I believe you guys have anyway. So the recommendations, the cost estimate right now that we have showing revitalization option number 1 was the upstream overflow concrete gravity dam with construction costs, design, engineering, and permitting at 12%, which is an estimate, construction cost contingency at 25%. Owner's administrative cost, which is your admin costs, comes in at 4.198 million. And number 2, same cost structure, 2.9 million for the downstream option. Class C numbers. This is just giving you an idea based on what KGS came up with for those 2 alternatives. And then we're to the question period. And we did up this diagram to show how we would go about removing the bridge, because we figured those questions would come up. And obviously the bridge has to be removed, and I don't believe there's a plan to replace it. So I'll open this up to questions though.
Thank you very much. Council, I'm going to get you to take the slide down, please.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, I gotta figure out how to do that. Oh, you do.
You got her. Thank you. So I'm going to open it
Thank
up.
you very much.
Thank you, Council. We're just going to do questions and comments about the report that just came in, and then we're going to have a conversation further down. I have notes telling me. So go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Reeve. And through you, I just have a question with that two options of rehabilitation upstream and downstream. There was no indication as to water levels upstream, as to like what that's going to achieve. Is that going to be full volume it used to be, or is it just going to be what the volume is currently right now?
Okay, and I'm sorry that the slides maybe didn't show the elevation numbers as boldly as they should, but what it's showing is a crest elevation of 309.26, which is pretty much the existing crest of the weir, the tops of the weirs right now.
So
what would be consistent?
What the dam would look like with no boards in it?
Right. The top of the concrete. So and I'm sorry we don't have the slides up again, but that picture where I showed the bad concrete where we are trying to anchor into, basically the top of that concrete would be the top of the weir all the way across.
So you know what the water depth would be, and as to probably like a calculation of what the water temperature might be upstream, as to like what are we creating by doing that up there?
So at its full supply level at elevation 309.26, which I'm using here, and the water levels probably when this was taken at 306. It's just over a meter if it was at full supply level, so to top of weir.
So that would preclude any water skiing, motorboating, the former usages that everyone kind of keys into what the dam did before and the volume, and there was no drawing on there as to where that water level would be to the like the height of the boat launch. Would that be dry land now? And how much dry land upstream are we going to have to rehabilitate now that it's no longer riverbank and it is now just a floodplain?
I think that's a fair question. With these two revitalization options, they're not, it has to be A or B. The elevation, I'm sure, can and the crest of the concrete being brought up to whatever elevation is required by whatever the township decides, you can raise it. We just brought it into the top of the weir elevation with those two revitalization options just for this discussion. The program that we did was to determine the strength of the concrete, what the conditions were, and whether it was able to be rehabilitated, needs to be removed, replaced. So I think those answers would have to come from council as to what you want.
So the north sleuth then would pretty much be irrelevant, because the height of that is going to be probably a good 12 feet above the water level of the new pier or new weir. So what's going to happen to it? Will it have to be reconstructed or reworked in order to be effective?
There's no plan for the north side. It'll operate as it's been operating now. If I can ask a question, because I don't know from what we did, when was the last time the stop logs were actually used in these sluiceways?
Every year.
So they do use them still?
Yeah, they'll be going in next week, I believe.
Okay. I was unaware of that. Okay. Again, I guess the two drawings that we did and the revitalization options that we did had removing the piers, not knowing that this was a concern. Having the piers as a part of the rehabilitation model isn't out of the question, but the operation of them would take some engineering because you're going to be removing the bridge if I understand things correctly.
And from past reports, the weight of the bridge was the anchoring force of the spalling concrete below it. So,
Right.
yeah, I'm just trying to get a grasp of just so people aren't confused with what it was and what it will be, and what we're creating. If you only have a shallow depth upstream and very little summer flow, the temperature of the water would be more conducive to algae and non-conducive to fish life and plant life and animal life. There's a lot more to go into the decision than it is just to than just having this isn't a complete rehabilitation to old standards or to old conditions in heights and water flows. This is something totally different as
Sure.
to what it will look like visually. You need to know where the water lines are going to be.
Yep.
You know, spending money, and we have piers up there now as far as the parkland goes that were somewhat submerged in original water level, which no longer will be if it's only 3 feet.
Right.
It's a thing to keep in mind when we don't have a good visual of how the depth of the water is going to be with what you have to do to it. Thank you. End of my
Yeah,
question.
no, that's fine. I appreciate the comments. For the exercise that we took out for this site investigation, I think we achieved the desired answers on whether the concrete was feasible or usable for rehabilitation. And it does not meet LRIA, CSA standards, OPSS. So
Yep, thank you.
those, sorry, go ahead.
No, I apologize. Yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Chris Palmer now. He was had his hand up.
Thank you, Reeve, and through you. A little confused.
Chris, we just lost you. Could you maybe turn off your video and speak?
To me? Oh,
Yeah, can you turn your video off and speak? Sometimes that helps. There, now, because we lost you, Chris. Go
Okay.
ahead, start over again.
sorry, Reeve. Mr. Brooks, I'm a little confused. When I read your report and it says that it's not suitable for rehabilitation, then okay, I understand that word. And then further on, there's recommendations for revitalization. That's kind of the same word to me dressed up. And you know, I look at the pictures here, and the one option, the old dam, is just nothing. It's just there, and the other one gets a skin. Like, this is a big move right here. These suggestions, and you know, it's basically a new dam if we go for it. That's what I'm seeing. But I'm just, how do you define the two words?
The revitalization is we're basically using the shell of the old dam as the skeleton for the structures, depending if we're going upstream or downstream. But there's new concrete that's going to form the crest and either the upstream or downstream face, and combined with armor stone, rock anchors into existing concrete. That's the stuff that I was saying isn't shown on these drawings. Again, these are just a couple of recommendations that we put together. I mean, these aren't cast in stone, just has to be A and B. There are a number of options, especially if you plan on having a head pond that you're going to have like you have now, using stop logs, then you're going to have to figure out a way to have those as active sluices. There are options without having a bridge deck. There's inflatable crest gates. There's probably a way to incorporate piers that they don't look like they're at a place without having the bridge above it. But To answer your question, the revitalization is basically building a shell over the existing structure that's there to save the town the costs of total removal and rebuilding. So this is what our engineer came up with. And Ted, if you're on there and you want to correct me if I'm wrong, or Damon, feel free. But
it's Ted here. No, you're doing fine.
Thanks, Ted.
yeah,
I'm gonna hand it over to Anita now.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Brooks. The Township of North Huron just did a new floodplain map for Wingham area. Does that fall under scope of work to take that in consideration when you're looking at the what's going on with the dam, or not at all? Or are you just looking at the concrete and not at the results of the floodplain mapping?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that. It was breaking up. I'm sorry, Anita.
Sorry. I'll stop my video.
Thank you.
Yeah. My question is, within your scope of work, do you have to look at the floodplain mapping for the Wingham area and the results of that? Or are you just looking at concrete and go from there? And like ministerial regulations regarding rebuilding, revitalizations of any flood structure?
I think all of that will have to be taken into consideration. Thank you for the question, Anita. But for basically the RFP that came out for this first phase of it was to perform the engineering and site work for the suitability of the existing concrete dam for rehabilitation. So what you're speaking about will probably have to come in the next phase. So,
thank you. I was just wondering about that. Thank you very much.
no, it's a great question, but for the first phase, that wasn't included in our scope of work.
Councilors, is there anyone else that would like to speak to this? Deputy Reeve Sipes?
Yes, thank you, Reeve. So, Mr. Brooks, my question is, and I think I've caught it a couple of times now, but I wanted just to make sure is, you are using in your drawings, in your preliminary drawings, what you're using existing structure to support the revitalization of these options. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct? Like you're using part of the structure that as it relates to it today without a bridge, but you are using the house and dam structure as a base for these revitalization options. Is that what I'm hearing?
In partially, I guess is the best way to say it, because like I had said, there are on these sketches are not shown any of the anchor options that have to go, whether there's rock anchors that go through the structure. So it's basically acting just as a core for a new shell. Okay, so
yeah,
the design engineer who put these together, and Peter Liu is on here, he can jump in if he needs to, but that's basically it. Again, there has to be anchoring from one structure to the other or through the other. If the concrete isn't good enough to use as an anchor point, the existing concrete, then we'll have to go through to bedrock or some sort of anchoring system. Other than that, it's fill in the simplest terms.
Okay, so I guess my question, my comment is that if we are stating that rehabilitation is not an option based on the concrete cores that you've taken, in essence, this is fill. It's not, you're not anchoring to this structure, because if you're anchoring to this structure, then we would rehabilitate the structure. Is that correct?
I think it's a fair statement.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to get. I want to get clarity as to relate. So what I'm hearing is we are not anchoring, or we would not be anchoring to this structure because obviously it's not available for rehabilitation. Therefore, we would be anchoring in it, and this structure would be used as some type of fill in the existing or the new revitalization option. That's what I'm hearing, and that's what I'm guessing I'm getting at. Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, just if I can just be clear. So this is my non-engineering opinion, by the way, that whether the fill, meaning the old dam, is as it's used for fill and encased and capped with this, if it's enhanced through a grouting program or otherwise at these anchor points. I can't say that none of the structure will be used. That's my opinion. The engineer will have to speak to that, but there are ways to enhance the existing concrete so that it does become suitable anchor. If that's the design engineer's choice. I am not the design engineer.
Thank you very
Kevin?
much.
Thanks, Trevor. Kevin?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Reeve. Yeah, just one more question came to mind. On the two estimates for upstream and downstream, can you give an kind of a educated guess as to the costs that are not in those pricing? Is the demolishing of the top deck in that price, and is
Yeah, so that part,
because people are going to hang on. If you gave them a dollar value, they're going to hang on to that till the cows come home. And
fair.
if it's any more, they're going to come back at us and go, why was it so much more? Yeah. What are the unknown costs, and just a ballpark of what we have to add to these, to this equation to make it a finished product?
Okay, so first, great question, Kevin, and I understand. And I noticed while I was there during the drilling program, there is a lot of interest on both sides. So that's a very, very fair question. Presenting the two options wasn't in this scope of work for us. Okay, but our estimate is an order of magnitude of costs, and it did include the bridge removal option. Okay, so it is in there, but those numbers we put in are just order of magnitude. The next phase of the RFP was to break down, I believe, into, and Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, like a class, at least class B, maybe class A estimate. So, but the big one, which is the bridge removal, was included in that. Other costs are, and there are the contingencies that are in there of 25% of those overall numbers. And Ted, I'm not going to put you on the spot. You put that 25% in there, but I think that's to cover a lot of the stuff that you might be asking about, the additional costs.
If I may, that the level of estimate that we can produce is based on the level of design definition that we have, and you've seen it's pretty preliminary. But I guess on our experience, we're comfortable that those are representative given the design definition we have, and we've added the 25% contingency is not an unreasonable one at this level of design definition. I mean, it isn't a complicated outcome, the structure. We do need to have a better understanding of end use. Obviously, that's been made clear tonight. But you know, I mean, for the scope of work that you've seen with the two blue sections, I mean, we believe the costs are representative of Jill and Kurt, including the contingencies that we've allowed.
Okay. Any other counselors? I'm just going to pipe up and say something here, something I was that just caught my ear. As Kevin said to Wayne, that you know, it's beautiful when it's that high. I've had a lot of people tell me that they don't. It's funny. I never realized this till just now. They don't. Some people don't understand why we'd want to not just take the dam out and do away with it because it's such an eyesore. They never realized all this time that the logs are in and the dam is actually in working shape every year. So the river that they were looking at that they thought so beautiful, they thought the dam was not being used. So if you take the dam out and then all of a sudden you're sitting there with a pond of mud or $10 million worth of flowers to plant, they're going, well, what went wrong? And it's because we didn't make them realize that the dam is in use every year. It'll have the logs put in shortly and you have that beautiful little bit of water there and et cetera, et cetera. that was an interesting point, and I'm glad somebody brought that up. Having said that, anyone else? And Chris and Anita, you guys, I hope you're still with us. I'm seeing circles, so.
Counselor Palmer has his hand up, Reeve Bailey.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Rave. To you, Mr. Brooks, and to your engineer, I was just curious about the expected lifetime of these options. Maintenance, again, for the one that gets skinned, what could be expected?
Mr. Chant?
If I may. So these are pretty preliminary recommendations. Again, the essence is that the dam structure as it exists today is replaced with new concrete, and what the old one looks like, how we hide it, encapsulate it, embrace it is does require some more look-see. I think to be perfectly frank, the skinning option is not a viable outcome of the next phase of the engineering. If there's something there, it might be some sort of a rock fill or something like that that's aesthetically pleasing and provides some interesting overflow scenes and aesthetics. But yeah, there's more work to be done on the practicality of some of what we've shown you there. But the concept of the revitalization is to leave the existing as much as practical and to replace it with something new that ties into it, doesn't extend the old footprint very much, to the extent possible, uses the existing structure to facilitate the new works. But the new structure is not suitable for anything. But I think the word we came up with tonight was fill. I think that's basically how to describe the premise of the premise of what the old structure, the role the old structure will fill in the new structure, and what the new one looks like depends largely on what the end use expectations are. I also did not realize that the stop logs were placed in there every spring. I just knew that the north sluice was managing the water flow, and whatever happened on the south sluice happened. So that was news. It wasn't really part of our scope to understand that. We talked about the floodplain mapping and what the upstream looks like, but yeah, for phase two, there's definitely a lot more to get into and look at these a little bit more practically speaking. So all good questions and comments, and all duly noted.
Okay, thank you. And again, I can't see Anita either. So Carson, if she has her hand up, or anybody else, I'm not seeing any more questions from council. Okay, so with no more questions from council, I want to thank you gentlemen for coming out and making that presentation tonight. This has been a long haul for North Huron. But again, this sitting council are making moves and doing things that simply have to be done. And this will be one of them, one way or the other. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for hosting us. And if there's follow-up questions, we can be reached through Carson or Jamie, and we'll try our best to help you through this on both sides, whatever the best option is.
Thank you very kindly.
But so we can log off now. If you do need to get a hold of me again, I'd say call, but all the Rogers service is out. So yeah, you can, Carson or Jamie, email me and I can get back on if necessary.
Thank you very kindly for that. We appreciate that.
Thank you for your time, guys. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to go down to reports, the clerk's department, 7.1.1, and that's the consent 2021-12 consent application for the Coles. Consent application report file number C23-21, owner applicant Gordon and Vanessa Coles. Property description, part lot 42, concession 1, 22 RP 22R-5243, which is 243 Gypsy Lane, Blythe, Township of North Huron. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby recommends approval of the consent application file number C23-21, owner applicant Gordon and Vanessa Coles. Property description, part lot 42, concession 1, RP 22R-5243. Again, 243 Gypsy Lane, Blythe, Township of North Huron, with the conditions set out by the Huron County Planner and Development Report presented by Monica Walker Bolton at the April 19, 2021 council meeting. Do I have a mover? Oh, no, Monica's going to speak to it first.
Thanks very much, Reeve. I have a presentation here for you. This is consent application 023 for 21. The application is for a severance to create a building lot. And this is in Blythe. The designation is residential and the zoning is R1. So the severed land is 788 square meters or 0.2 acres. And the area retained is 1,220 square meters or 0.3 acres. And that the retained land contains a house. The severed land is vacant, except it does contain a shed that will be moved. The purpose of the severance is to create a new building lot. On the slide that I'm showing here, you can see the proposed building envelope and the proposed severed land. And this shows the location of the subject property on Gypsy Lane. Folks might be familiar with this property on Gypsy Lane because it's adjacent to a large property with a pond. I did speak to the neighbor that owns the adjacent property with the pond. She had some questions about drainage, but overall she had no objection to the proposed severance. The application was also shared with the building official and the Public Works Department, and we had some discussions about the recommended conditions to address issues of drainage and also issues of connecting to municipal services. So this is just a photo that I took when I visited the property. You can see the small shed that I mentioned. The applicant indicated that that shed is just held up by stones and is easily movable. So if the application is approved, one of the conditions is that the shed be moved to the retained land so that we don't have an accessory building without a main use. That's just a picture of the house on the retained land. So in reviewing this application, the planning department considered the policies of the township's official plan. The application conforms with the township official plan. It meets the minimum lot area and frontage for a lot in Blythe. And it is recommended for approval with the recommended conditions. So I'll just close that presentation now, and I'm available if there are any questions.
I don't have a mover and seconder, but let's just go for the questions first. Anybody have questions? And right now I can't see everybody, so, oh, there we go. Again, if I don't see your hand, please speak up. Has any questions from anyone in council? I'm not seeing it. Kevin, go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve, to Monica. Is that open, that suggested lot, is that on the south side or the north side? I think that picture's backwards.
The new lot is on the north side.
Yeah, your picture showed it on the left-hand side of that building.
I could bring up my presentation, but I think it was I'm not sure which picture, but the severed lot would have been on the right-hand side.
The overhead shot of that where you're just defining the lot line.
Oh yeah, that just showed the whole property. It wasn't showing the severance. That was the air photo.
You had it in you had two lines on there. I just was sure. I thought that was the lot. Never mind. If I might be confused.
We're good then?
But the picture you supplied, the severed lot was on the left-hand side of the property, where you're considering it to be on the right side, not the left.
Monica, can you just pull it up?
I think I understand where the confusion is coming from. I'll share the slide that's being referred to. So in this slide that you can see, the proposed severed area is to the north of the existing house, where these orange lines that you can see on this slide just indicate other properties in the area. So this isn't.
I thought that was lot lines that you were.
No, there's already a house here now.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. But I was curious. So
okay.
It didn't. I thought it denoted it was on the left. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we're going to turn it back to council. Are there any other councilors with any questions? Seeing or hearing nobody, I'm going to ask for a mover for this. I have Paul Heffer moving. I have Kevin Faulkner seconding. Carson, are you ready?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby recommend approval of the consent application file number C2321, owner applicant Gordon and Vanessa Coles, property description, part of lot 42, concession 1, RP 22R 5243, 243 Gypsy Lane, Blythe, Township of North Huron, with the conditions set out in the Huron County Planning and Development Report presented by Monica Walker Bolton at the April 19th, 2021 council meeting. So Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Now we have 7.2.1, which is Finance Department Tax Rate Bylaw, that the Council Township of North Huron hereby receives the report from the Director of Finance dated April 19th, 2021 in regards to the 2021 tax rate for information purposes. And further, that the council adopts bylaw number 29-2021, being a bylaw establishing the 2021 tax rates for the Township of North Huron at the April 19th, 2021 regular council meeting. Do I have a mover? I have Paul Heffer moving. Do I have a seconder? I have Deputy Reeve Sight seconding. Did you want to speak to this, Donna, or just answer questions?
Yeah, I'll just answer questions. When we adopted our budget back on February 1st, we didn't have the county or the school board tax rates at that time. And so there was a few changes in policy that have been incorporated into the tax rates. And as noted in my report, the tax rate bylaw is included in the bylaw section of the agenda.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Deputy Reeve Sight.
Donna, can you confirm to me whether the education amounts and the county amounts in 2021 are consistent with 2020, or are they higher or lower?
The education rate it makes no effect on the the total taxes, but there was a slight implication for the county on our sample property that we look at. The county effect is $7.24. So the county did impact by a slight amount.
Any other questions for Donna? I don't see or hear any. So I'm going to hand it over to, I think I have a mover and seconder, so I'm going to hand it over to Carson for a roll call.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report from the Director of Finance dated April 19th, 2021 in regard to the 2021 tax rates for information purposes, and further that Council adopt bylaw number 29-2021, being a bylaw establishing the 2021 tax rates for the Township of North Huron at the April 19th, 2021 regular council meeting. So Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. 7.3 Recreation, we have no reports tonight. 7.4 Public Works and Facility.
No, this, okay.
7.4.1 the Housing Dam and Dam investigations. Not sure. We had quite a conversation about this. Should I go ahead, Trevor? Help me.
Reeve, I think based on all the conversations and the comments by council, might be interesting to go through to let Director of Public Works review her report as consistent as it relates to the report we heard from Chant tonight, and kind of understand the conversation about the two reports and how they couldn't coexist.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Sipe. Jamie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
If you don't mind, just run us through this 7.4.1 and your thoughts.
All right. Thank you, Reeve Bailey. As seen earlier in the meeting, Chant Limited has completed the review of previous reports and their inspection on the Howson Bridge and Dam. I would like to outline that an additional report outlining costs will be produced to council at a future meeting. In February of this year, Chant Limited completed the phase 1, which was the concrete spillway testing and to confirm suitability of the existing concrete for rehabilitation. Based on the testing, the dam does not qualify based on the testing, the concrete does not qualify the South Dam for rehabilitation. A substantial amount of research has been completed throughout the years, which assisted the Howson Bridge and Dam Committee, which started in 2019. And over the course of 9 meetings, the committee progressed with options as to how to move forward with the Howson Bridge and Dam. Their options were to do nothing, to remove the asset and naturalize the waterway, to rehabilitate the existing structure, or to remove the existing structure and replace with a new structure. At the end of the Howson Bridge and Dam Committee, option 3 was chosen. But further investigations were required in order to find suitability as to what type of rehabilitation was viable, and also set a timeline that could be set for fundraising. At this time, the report from Chant, as outlined, shows that the concrete for the dam cannot be rehabilitated. For financial impacts, the investigation was a total of $46,000 plus applicable taxes. To date, $143,422 have been spent on engineering. A list of pros and cons have been placed into staff's report so that council can review those to help aid in decision making. It is staff's recommendation to decommission the Howson Bridge and Dam based off of the engineering completed. This does relate back to the strategic plan, and one of the goals was to have well-maintained and thoughtfully planned infrastructure. It also meets action item 4.5 of the plan by determining the next steps for the Howson Bridge and Dam. So if anyone has any questions, I'll stop here, and I'm here to answer anything you guys have.
Okay, questions from council? Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sipes.
Well, I can honestly say to you that we have had, even before tonight's meeting, there has been people who have sent messages trying to understand why the municipality is recommending decommissioning when Chant is saying we could use the existing structure to do something with it at a cost of whatever. And my position is that I am not against Chant's revitalization recommendations. What I am against is, as I've mentioned before, is no more taxpayer money going to this structure, in the sense that there isn't, in my opinion, there is not the necessity of need in order to make that pond a higher level than what it currently is. Somebody telling me that there's recreation or boating opportunities, I don't see it happening. I could be wrong. I am not, it's my opinion. I don't see it happening. It didn't happen before. When the dam was good. My concern is that, you know, if a community group wants to spend time and effort in, you know, fundraising for a revitalization plan, as Chant has talked about, I'm all for it. I will gladly support their cause, but I am not going to suggest any taxpayer money, as this council has been very clear before, to put any more money into this structure, especially when we don't see an actual need of water flow and floodplain flood control and any of that stuff that you would normally look at when it comes to a dam structure. Reeve?
Thank you very much. I just want to follow up on that, unless other councils could speak if they like. So I'm looking at a report that tells me that the dam can't be saved. Not going to argue that for a second. That's what the professionals say. That's where we're going. But I am looking at a report that says you need to decommission the dam, but we could use the dam as fill if we wanted to make a weir dam. So the last two paragraphs in this House and Bridge and Dam investigations kind of says to me that we're going to dig that all out and take that fill all away, and at a cost. And then if somebody did want to come forward and put a weir dam in or fundraise for it, they're going to have to turn around and pay for all that fill to go back in. So I have no argument with the fact that we did say that we're not going to spend any money in tax dollars on it. There's not an argument there. There's not an argument the dam is done. But my concern is we also said we would allow after the committee, we would allow people, if they wanted to fundraise for this, to go ahead and do it. And I don't think it would be a service to them if we were to take out the very expensive fill and then they'd have to put the fill back in later, since we've already been told by the engineers they're going to use it. So I'm just wondering if we wouldn't be further ahead to reword that to say, yes, we do need to decommission. Yes, there's no argument that the top of the bridge has to come off, but shouldn't we give those very folks that have worked so hard on this a chance to fundraise or put something forward and try to save this dam, and maybe they don't even want to if it's a weir dam. I have no idea. I'm just suggesting that it would be a shame that we didn't follow through with what we said we were going to do. And I'm going to go to Kevin. Oh, sorry, Jamie wanted to speak to that first, and then I'm going to go to Kevin and then Anita, okay?
Thank you, Reeve Bailey, and through you. The potential for fundraising, we would have to set a timeline for the fundraising if either option was to be considered. Now, these timelines, you would not be able to do one without the other for the bridge and the dam. Right now, you cannot remove the bridge and leave the dam as it is. That would need further engineering if that's something that you guys wanted to consider. Therefore, increasing the township's liability as to the poor condition that the bridge is in. So that's one of the drawbacks to this fundraiser. If fundraising was to continue or to work or to be allowed to move forward, the amounts within the Chant report, in the report or in their slideshow, it actually did show more costs than what's in my report. And yes, in my report it says 1.9 to 2.8 million, but that's not including engineering work, contingency, permitting, any type of administration costs that we may need to do. So just bear that in mind, that if you do choose to do anything else, there is liability on the township as it stands with the bridge. So if we were not to remove that, then you would have to be, staff would need to be directed to be able to do something so that the liability is reduced on the township. Like it would take that 1.9 million and move it up to, I believe in Chant's report, it said, I can't remember, 3.8 or something. It's in the report. I've been trying to find it. I can't see it right now. but I can pull it up, and that 2.8 increases substantially to a higher level. In order for somebody to fundraise that amount of money in a short period of time, I don't know if that would be feasible.
Go ahead, Kevin was next.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. I just like to know, or people that are listening to know that all the options that they've put forward, that Chase has put forward, do not restore the historic levels of that pond. With them cutting it down to the base and putting concrete on top of it, is at least a third to at least half of the water volume that would normally be there with all the stop logs in. So what you're paying to do to revitalize that area is still going to be a loss of footprint that will have to be dealt with from the municipality, whether that's regrading the shoreline or redefining it or what have you. It's just that just to be for the information. Well, this isn't replacing the dam and having the dam the way it was. This none of the information that they brought forward does any of that. It just helps us deal with what the concrete, with the level of the where the stop logs would have been at the level when they were taken out. That's all. I just wanted to make that clear to everyone.
Thank you, Kevin. Anita?
Yes, thank you, Reeve Bailey. I am just really worried about if we are putting in some kind of structure again, we need permission from the Ministry of Natural Resources. The Drainage Act will be influenced. The Maitland Valley needs permission for anything what we are going to put up. And we need to know anything about it before we even talk about fundraising or anything like that. I know there are grants available for removal of dam structures, but I don't think there's anything for revitalization or rehabilitation or anything like that.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Reeve. Let me know if I'm breaking up, please. Yeah, I'm very concerned about the time element and the liability factor. We can only last so long as far as the bridge part goes. When the Chant report to me said it all, it doesn't suit for rehab. And so when they start tinkering around with different ideas, ideas are great, but when you start throwing out new ones, this is not a fixer. This is a fixer upper their revitalization options, and it's been said here that it doesn't bring the level up to where some folks would like it, and it only means a few logs can be put in, so it just doesn't change the level too much. I don't know. Those are the things that influence me a lot that I have trouble with. I can't wait. That's my feeling about it, because we could be sued for one heck of a lot more money than what this dam potentially could cost us, and that worries me. I hope it worries everybody. Not that it should happen, but you don't know, eh? But anyway, so I'm very influenced by the Chant report, the first part anyways, that it just it's not suitable for rehab, period.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul. You're muted, Paul. You're muted.
Through you, Reeve. Yes, I go back to a stickler problem I have. We paid $47,000 for this Chant report. 1984, a report came out. They ended up coming to the same conclusion. So that's another $47,000 that we just spent. $47,000, I'd say, would probably be about 1/10 of maybe properly decommissioning the dam. And now we have to go and find new money that we just lost $47,000 for. And I see if there's going to be more work done on this, then all of our money that we had there for decommissioning, it's going to be gone too. That's my thought with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Deputy Reeve Sight.
I want to make, the money that was put in reserves for the house and dam was not put in the house and dam for decommissioning. That was not its intent. That is not what it was originally intended for when the mayor, Carter, put it into reserve. It was not intended for that at the time. We've used it to the engineering that has been done over the last number of years has, and I agree with Councillor Heffer, is, you know, we've had a lot of engineering done to this structure. And a lot of the engineering that we've been doing to this structure is to discuss and to figure out, because it seems like every time we do a report, somebody has refuting evidence that says the report isn't right. What I'm hearing today and what I've heard from, what I've heard from people who, on the community group that sent out messages before this meeting tonight, is they're not refuting the Chant report. They're not refuting it. What they're hoping is that they can understand and that the council could look at the revitalization options. Council has to make that determination. I'm not here to accept or deny what they're asking. But I agree with Councillor Heffer in the fact that, but that money wasn't expected to be used for, it was expected to be used for revitalization or repair. It was not expected to be used for decommissioning. So to say that we've thrown that money away, I would argue we have not. We've done due diligence to ensure what we have had to do. Have we had to refute the conversation about what was in a 1983 report? Absolutely, we've had to. We've had to do it 3 times, and I don't disagree that sometimes it's a difference of opinion. And you know, engineers are engineers, and I don't think we have to be cognizant to say that, you know, everybody is not going to want to take somebody else's report without doing their own due diligence. So I respect Chant on what they did based on the RFP that we've given them. What I also want to understand is that, you know, arguably Councillor Faulkner has made it very clear, and it makes it clear to me as well, is that the whole reason for rehabilitation of the dam at the time was to, and from the House and Bridge Dam Committee, was to bring the pond back. That was, I believe, the intent of that recommendation, because they believe that that was important to that committee and the people around the area. Well, these revitalization plans don't do that. So if they want to change, and I understand Chant's revitalization things where they were options, but not the final option, that doesn't mean that, you know, when phase 2 were to come in, depending on the conversation, those prices could go from 2 million to 4 million back to 5 million. We have no idea what those could be. If the intent, as Chant says, if the hope or the prey is to get it back to the same level as it was pre-house and dam, those revitalization options don't do what you're asking it to do. So construction costs and all that stuff are not going to be what Chant is offering based on the recommendation from the committee, because that's what the committee asked us to do, was to revitalize that dam. So I'm not going to spend much more, Reeve Bailey, but you know, I think ultimately in my mind is this council needs to decide whether the liability of that bridge is too worrisome for a planned phase 2 revitalization of that structure. But I guess my question is to Jamie, as I'm thinking about it, we have to take the bridge off anyways. So either way, revitalization or no revitalization or decommissioning, that bridge was coming off. So is there a way based on your report to take the bridge off without affecting the structure as of the dam in the sense if a revitalization plan was to come about? Yes or no? I don't know the answer to that question.
That'd be no.
So that answers the question of why. So that tells me why the recommendation for decommissioning is different from, Jamie's report, from the recommendations from Chant, because Chant is saying, yeah, we're going to use it. But I mean, the recommendation is you can't take the bridge off without affecting the structure. And therefore it has to be, looks like a decommissioning itself. So I'm not going to spend any more time on that, Reeve. I think that's the conversations that I've heard. That's the questions in the comments that we need to hear from councillors to understand whether we move forward as opposed to the recommendations.
Any other councillors? Not seeing any. We've had a good go at this. 7.4.1, the Housing Dam investigations. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives a report from the Director of Public Works and Facilities dated April 19th, 2021 regarding the 2021 Housing Dam, Bridge and Dam investigations for information. And further, the Council directs staff to investigate the process of decommissioning the Housing Dam, Bridge and Dam as rehabilitation of this asset is not possible as outlined in the Chant Limited report. And further, that the council directs staff to present a future report on potential financial impacts on the decommissioning of the Housing Dam Bridge. And further, that the council authorizes staff to use the Housing Dam Bridge reserve funds to prepare and issue an RFP for the procurement of services to decommission the Housing Bridge and Dam. Do I have a mover? I have Paul Heffer moving. I have Kevin Faulkner seconding. Carson, I hand it to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to clarify with what was read there, just you had read it as investigate the process to decommission. So I just want to clarify that it does say initiate the process to decommission. So just a wording thing there, but certainly could have implications. So I just thought I'd clarify that.
My apologies.
So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe,
No.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
No.
So that motion carries 5-2 with the noes being Reeve Bailey and Deputy Reeve Sipe.
Thank you, Carson. 7.4.2. This is the Blythe Water Supply Systems well repairs. Jamie, did you want to speak to this one?
Yes, if I may. Thank you, Reeve Bailey. During a routine inspection for Blythe's well 1 and 1, 2 is yet to be completed. It was found that the casing had a hole in it. So a lot of water was hired to complete the work, and the hole is a concern as it's located above the static level. And at this time, well 1 has been offline until a new liner can be installed. All stakeholders have been notified. So the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Huron-Perth Public Health Unit, as well as the North Huron Fire Department were all told that this was occurring. Currently, the casing has been installed and it's slowly coming. Well, it's not back online, but it's getting repaired currently. Well 2 will be inspected in May, and the last time they were inspected in 2011 and 2012, respectively. Testing including a video survey, geophysical logging, and well rehabilitation, and as well as new pumping equipment were completed back in that time frame. Staff budgeted $38,000 for the Blythe wells 1 and 2 inspection. And staff is still recommending that well number 2 be inspected in May. The repairs to well 1 are estimated to cost an additional $32,000. So staff is requesting that council authorize $75,000 from water reserve to offset the costs of the well 1 repairs and any potential repairs to well 2. I'm hoping that with the information gathered from well 2, planning can start to take place as to what needs to happen in the future for the Blythe wells, as in 2012, well 2 was seen to be not in the best condition. So once further information has been obtained, another report will come to council. I'll stop there, and if you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Reeve, you're muted. You're muted, Reeve.
Goodness sake, sorry about that. Deputy Reeve Sykes moving. Seconder, please. Anita Van Hintersum, let's open it up for conversation. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sykes.
Yeah, so Jamie, so am I to understand that these wells, so you said the last time these wells were looked at was 2011 and 2012, is that correct?
That's correct.
So my concern is that especially now what I'm hearing is in 2012, we're hearing that well 2 was not in good shape. Is that what I heard as well?
Yes, that is correct.
So we're now 9. So are we, I guess my concern is, are we well confident that 75,000 is going to be enough? Because if well 1 was 36 and well 2 was bad before 2012, and I don't know how bad, but respectively bad, I guess my question is that are we going to be covered enough in order to, to do that type of stuff?
Through Reeve Bailey to Deputy Reeve Sype. Well 2, I would like to bring back a report as prior in 2012, well 5 wasn't up and running at that time. So the water system has changed since that time to what it looks like now. So depending on the repairs or what the findings are for well 2, it'll determine what the future may look like for the Blythe well system. So that's why if the repairs can be maintained with that $42,000 or $40,000 for the next few years, I guess that's kind of what I'm gaining and seeing what could happen. If it's any more than that, I will have to. I would like to bring something back to council so that we can best plan what is best for the system and for future growth or whatever the case might be in Blythe.
Reeve Bailey?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. Through your Reeve to Jamie. Last year, I guess it'd be before you coming on board, there was an infrastructure assessment done on the properties, and I don't remember seeing the disrepair of those wells being a priority when they were prioritized for this council's 4-year term as to what needed to be saved for what projects needed and what their severity was and how quickly they needed to be done. I didn't see anything in those reports that led to this kind of an evaluation. Is there a reason why it's become more important now to bring up to council now that it wasn't in the forecasted for fixing.
Through Reeve Bailey to Councillor Faulkner. I'm not sure if you're speaking about the BCA, so the Building Condition Assessment Reports.
It was one from your department on the infrastructure. It was shortly after they had cambered certain drainage and some systems in Blythe that they had looked at, and it was in the evaluation of when they were putting well 5 into operation, as to why they needed well 5 and the condition of everything else. You know, whether like digging a new one versus fixing an old one. It just seems to be a bit of a surprise to me that the system is requiring that level of maintenance at this point.
Through Councillor Bailey to Councillor Faulkner, the wells are inspected every 10 years. It's actually quite invasive when those inspections are completed, and the water operators nor or our staff complete those in any other time frame. Sorry. So every 10 years, the wells get fully inspected, and anything that was cameraed or whatever occurred in the system might have happened out in the distribution system and not in the wells or the treatment side of the system.
Did the inspection of the wells this time, did that occur when they were assessing the liner at the underground reservoir, or was that a separate inspection date?
Through Reeve Bailey to Councillor Faulkner, this is a separate inspection, so this is just for the wells.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Site.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, you know, one of the things that it's come, you know, I think, and Jamie has made very good point of this today, is that we need to be better at, you know, obviously, if we're doing an inspection, that we need to budget that there's going to be some potential repair to this, especially if it's going to, if the normal course of action is to happen every 10 years. I don't know, as Jamie has mentioned, I don't know if the invasivity of these tests would warrant an inspection earlier than 10 years. I don't know if that 10 years is the norm in the effect, but you know, ultimately what I'm hearing is that we haven't really budgeted, you know, for failure. We've budgeted for a review, and that's about it. And then the concern is we're caught off guard when a repair of this magnitude is happening. So I think what I'm hearing from Jamie is more planning needs to be involved as it relates to, you know, these inspections, but also the remedies of these inspections that come up. So, you know, I'm be more than happy to, you know, as Jamie progresses and getting that information, that those reports come back to give us a better handle on, you know, on that type of stuff going forward.
Thank you, Trevor. Anyone else? Not seeing any.
Reeve, sorry.
Right, go ahead.
The only, sorry, Reeve. The other thing I wanted to mention is the conversation about, there was some questions about, and I thought I seen it, about not doing the SCADA project in order to pay for this. I don't know if that was changed in the preliminary. It looks like we're just taking it at a reserve. We're not affecting the SCADA project. Is that correct? I believe that's important. And I don't want to see us moving capital projects that we budgeted, because in essence, we should be budgeting capital projects when they're absolutely necessary to do, and not pushing capital projects down the road, because I think we're going to run ourselves into the same ground as where we have in the past if we continue to do that. So I'm seeing we're going to continue to do the SCADA and pay this with reserves. So I'm very happy to see that.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Anyone else? Not seeing anyone else. I believe on this one, I do have a mover and seconder, do I not?
Yes, you do, your worship.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, your worship. So the motion on the floor is that the council of the township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Public Works and Facilities dated April 19th, 2021 regarding repairs to the Blythe water supply system for information. And further, that council authorizes $75,000 to be used from water reserves to offset repairs costs to the Blythe wells. So Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight. Deputy Reeve Sight, you were muted there. For some reason, I can't hear you, Deputy Reeve Sight.
Yes.
There we go. Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. 7.4.3, the mixed supply to and place tender outcome, that the council of the township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Public Works and Facilities dated April 19th, 2021 regarding the tender and results of the hot mix supply and place tender. And further, that the tender be awarded to Armstrong Paving and Materials Group Limited in the amount of $94,637, exclusive of applicable taxes. Do I have a mover? I have Paul Heffer moving. I have Chris Palmer seconding. I'll open it up to council. Oh, actually, Jamie, do you want to speak to this one?
Sure. Thank you, Ruth Bailey. So a tender went out once budget was passed, and the hot mix paving will be for resurfacing projects on Wellington Street, Owen Street, Jordan Crescent, and part of Jordan Drive, as outlined in the previous report from Public Works named Capital Road Projects for 2021. So we got two bids, and the low bid was Armstrong Paving and Materials Group, which Reeve Bailey outlined the total cost. They are able to come in, and although the township has not worked with them, we have obtained references from neighboring municipalities that the feedback was positive, and so staff is recommending that the work be awarded to Armstrong Paving and Materials Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Questions, comments, concerns for Jamie? I'm going to start with Kevin and then Paul.
Thank you. I'll throw you, Jamie. On the Wellington Street repaving in Blythe here, I've had the question of why a certain one section of it was not being resurfaced when that street was resurfaced at the same time in history, and there's just one short section of it that's not being redone, and it was just I couldn't answer the question for them. It wasn't a condition thing. That whole road's in pretty bad shape.
Through Reeve Bailey to Councillor Faulkner, yes, there is a small section that's not being paved because it's not in worse of condition as the other sides of Wellington.
Okay, as far as I was indicated, that the age of the road was the same. The only huge deterioration of it was the construction of the new buildings in town, that they had to tear up the road and leave it open for quite some time. We're just curious as why that's getting attention and not their whole street. I couldn't answer that for them. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Paul?
Yes, through you, Reeve. Yeah, this is Jamie. I really appreciate the references that you got from that, and getting the two bids and then giving a reference. Is a name I didn't hear before, and so it's really nice seeing the references there, and good report. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. To Jamie, I'm just curious, how many inches is this hot mix?
I believe it through Reeve Bailey to Councillor Palmer, it's going to be about 2 inches.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Not seeing any. I believe I have movers. I'm going to hand it over to Carson for roll call.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes,
So that motion carries 7-0.
thank you. 7.4.4, the Blythe Community Center roof tender outcome. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Public Works and Facilities dated April 19th, 2021, regarding the procurement of service for the replacement of the roof above the heated seated area in the upper hall section of the Blythe Community Center. And further, that the contract for the replacement of the Blythe Community Center roof be awarded to Atlas/Apex Roofing Ltd. in the amount of $65,328 plus applicable taxes. Do I have a mover? I have Paul Heffer moving. I have Mr. McBurney seconding. I'm going to open it up to council for questions to Jamie. Not hearing or seeing any. Carson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Public Works and Facilities dated April 19th, 2021 regarding the procurement of services for the replacement of the roof above the heated seating area and the upper hall section of the Blythe Community Center. And further, that the contract for the replacement of the Blythe Community Center roof be awarded to Atlas Apex Roofing Limited in the amount of $65,328 plus applicable taxes. So Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. FR-2021 Fire Safety Grant Program. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accept the report from the Fire Chief dated April 19th, 2021 regarding the Ontario Fire Safety Grant. And further, the Council accept the grant allocation of $5,800 to support the increased training opportunities as outlined in the submitted grant application. And further, that the Council deems the adoption of bylaw number 33-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve and the clerk to sign on behalf of the Council a fire safety grant transfer payment agreement between the Corporation of the Township of North Huron and Her Majesty the Queen in right of Ontario as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal to be time-sensitive matter and approves an extension to the section 19.1 of the procedural bylaw to allow bylaw number 33-2021 to be passed at the April 19th, 2021 regular council meeting. Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving. I have Anita seconding. Marty, would you like to speak to this?
No, I don't have anything more to add. That was our
What?
report. Thank you.
Okay, Marty doesn't want to speak to that. Okay, Marty doesn't speak to it yet. Any questions from council? Not seeing any questions from council. Carson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. 7.6, there's no building reports, department reports. 7.7, child care department, there's no reports. 7.8, CAO has no report. Correspondence, 8.1, Huron Pioneer Thrashers and Hobbies Association request for a letter of support from the Huron County SLED program submission. That the council of the township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter of support to the Huron Pioneer Thrashers and Hobby Association to be included in the Huron County SLED grant submission. Do I have a mover? I have Trevor moving. Do I have a seconder? I have Chris Palmer seconding. Opening up for any questions from council. I think it was pretty straightforward. Not seeing any. Carson, do you mind?
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very kindly. Council reports, Reeves activity report. I hope everybody's heard. We're going to have fiber in East Wawanosh. We're going to go right up almost to Anita's door, and we stopped just before Anita's door. But anyway, it's a good first step. I want to thank Cody Jodry from Economic Development from Huron County, who pushed hard, worked hard on this one with his team. I don't think we'd have this if it wasn't for his pushing and determination, because all reports were Huron County would be the last ones to have fiber. So we're very happy that with his help, all this area got fiber or is getting fiber in the near future. We've got started. I'm happy to hear that the two upper tier governments are giving us somewhere in around $600,000, I believe it is, towards the Westcast building to help us for infrastructure changes there that are deadly or very important to have. I'm very happy for that one. Just want to touch on one other one. I want to talk to our staff and council, and we're dealing with so many things right now with COVID-19 happening, and Trevor and I and your senior staff are practically running around the clock, and we're now emailing each other 7 days a week. We're trying to keep up with COVID-19, and we're going by orders that are above our head. Open it, close it, open it, close it, stop it, half, almost a little bit. I want to thank our staff for sticking with this. We have to lay them off, hire them back on, lay them off. I want to thank our staff very kindly and our council and our citizens in North Huron for being so patient as we try to work our way through this. To add to that dilemma, we have our staff being criticized by Morris Turnberry citizens because Morris Turnberry Council stopped paying for their share, or a lot of their share of the community centers and every trails and the daycares and everything else. It's the Council of Morris Turnberry that made that decision to stop funding it. We are only protecting everybody by adding the price so that we can have these facilities available. It is very unfair and very hurtful when our staff at the doors and at the community centers and at the playgrounds and at our town hall are being attacked and criticized by Morris Turnberry residents. Please, Morris Turnberry residents, you have your own council, your own staff, attack them. They're the ones that stop paying. We at North Huron are trying to work with everyone. We're good neighbors, but by God is my witness, with the world the way it is now, the last thing you folks need to do is to attack our staff that are simply doing the job, and it's the job this council put before them. So I'd appreciate a little more sympathy for our staff, because again, we are the ones responsible for the trails, the arenas, the daycares, everything. All your council had to do was sign that check, and they didn't do it. So we're trying to still work with you after all that. I'm going to let it go at that, and I'm going to pass it on to council member reports, verbal written updates from members who sit on a board or a committee. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Go ahead, Trevor.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. I wanted to just update council on the the Wingham BIA. So the Wingham BIA has continued to have their meetings, continuing to work with the support of, their members. There's been lots of discussion about through Huron County as it relates to retention, business surveys that are potentially going to be starting to be going out in the municipality and the county, that they're going to be looking at, like that's going to be done by volunteer groups, and in that regards. So there is some work that's going to be done in the county as regards to business retention and that as it relates to economic development in the municipality. So that was brought up to, Chair of the BIA, Dave Tiffin, sits on the Economic Development Committee as well, and he's relayed that information on to the BIA and the BIA members. I also wanted to update council as it relates to the Police Services Board. So the Police Services Board we're actually myself, Reeve Bailey, CAO Evans, and Clerk Lamb are actually in a meeting tomorrow, I believe at 10:30, that talks about the change or the movement from the boards as they look today to the OPP detachment board, and what that looks like and how that implementation is going to arise. So there should be more information as it relates to that in the future. There's not a lot of movement right now. There's lots of questions as opposed to decisions that are being made at this point. They're looking more for community feedback and feedback from municipalities and staff as it relates to how those will be interchanged with what we've currently have. And I have my own opinion of certain things that the ministry is doing that I think they're being short-sighted about, but I will leave it at that and make those comments when tomorrow when we have that meeting. So I did want to also update council on the community, Wingham Community Connectors. There is a motion later on, a notice of motion that was talked about that the Wingham Community Connectors have been involved with about getting information as it relates to the umbrella project. But the Community Connectors is also looking at, I've had some discussions that they've actually fallen off the wayside a little bit because of COVID-19 and some of the other things that are more important than, but welcome packages to Wingham and North Huron is an initiative that the Wingham Community Connectors is working on. But I do have to say, and I do apologize, I haven't been able to, fully finalize that discussion with the Wingham Community Connectors due to, obviously COVID-19 and the other important priorities that we have as a municipality at this point. So I just did want to update the council members those three things.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve. Yes, this is just for the museum committee. They're just waiting for a few letters to come in yet, and then the people are going to make the presentation to you. They want to put a final draft through for the committee to see if it passes and whatnot, and then they're hoping to be able to do it in June. They're hoping things will change around a bit by then. So thank you.
Thank you very kindly. Anyone else? Not seeing anyone. Comments by members, just simple comments. Anything? We'll start with Chris, go to Sec, Kevin, and then Anita.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. As you mentioned, I'm really pleased that good portions of our East Wantash ward is getting some fiber, and I want to thank all those that helped push for it.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'll pass that on to Emmett County. Kevin?
Yeah, a comment and a question, possibly through you for Dwayne. I'm just curious, I haven't heard anything through on the Maitland Estates through their deadline has come and passed on their 5th extension. And the last ultimatum to them that they had to reach certain set points in order to maintain their status. I'm just curious as to since that deadline has come and gone and no word and no trucks at the end of that laneway there to take dirt away. So I'm just curious as to why they're, Huron County hasn't given us any direction or asked us for anything, or no one's asked us about it, and when they might be doing that.
Do you want to take that, Dwayne, or do you want me to?
You can, Reeve. I was away last week, and so I haven't had an opportunity yet to follow up, but my understanding is that there were intentions or have been intentions to submit an extension request, but I haven't had any further follow-up to that, but perhaps the Reeve has more information than I do.
Yeah, to be quite honest with everybody, they did put a request in for an extension, but my understanding is no obligations have been met again. Not even one. Not even one. Seems to be internal problems with the people we're dealing with, but unfortunately the time has come and gone. They have asked for an extension. If Monica's still on the line, she can follow up. Her and I've had conversations last week, but it's not looking good. Having a bad week. Had a bad week last week. Things will get better though, Kevin. Anyone else? Go ahead, Trevor. Oh, Anita, sorry, Anita, then Trevor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anita, go ahead, yes.
I apologize, Anita. You're on mute, Anita. You're on mute.
Really, no problem. I have just a comment with spring weather and people out and about. I would like to draw attention to slow-moving large farm equipment on the roads. Please slow down as soon as you spot a piece of farm equipment. Be aware of the orange triangular slow-moving sign. Do not speed past farm machinery or pull out quickly in front of them. Farm machinery doesn't have the same maneuverability and stop length as cars. If you need to pass, make sure you have lots and lots of space and the equipment is making a left turn. Let's keep everyone safe on the roads and take a deep breath and enjoy the view in the country. And I have another comment. This week is Volunteer Appreciation Week. And I think we are all very grateful for all our volunteers in our community who work year-round to make North Huron a better place. Thank you very, very much, everybody who is listening.
Thank you, Anita. Trevor?
Thank you. Actually, that was thank you, Anita. That was my the volunteer week. I think is a great thing. You know what? Yeah, every municipality, not just North Huron, but every municipality in Huron County serves at at volunteers, and every municipality wouldn't be where they are today without them. The cost would be astronomical if we had to do everything without volunteers. So I think I appreciate them as well, and I thank Anita for also bringing that up, as it is an important topic. The one comment that I would say is that we did get some feedback or some information back from the Huron County Health Unit as it relates to our request for so when we supported pop-up mobile vaccination clinics in North Huron. So we did get a response from the Chief Medical Officer, Miriam Clausen. So you did send that back message to us. So I think it's very clear that that is a strategy that they're still looking to use. And and I will be very clear, as I said this before, it was nice to see that people of the age of 40 can register now. I was not anticipating that. I was expecting that not to come till about November. So it's nice to see that you can register. It doesn't argue the fact that supply is not where it needs to be. But I mean, ultimately, we are not going to get out of this just by sheer vaccine. We need to also work together with the province, with the federal governments to understand what these necessary measures are. Obviously, not all measures are going to be well met with great enthusiasm. So, you know, I think ultimately everybody's going to have a right answer or a wrong answer. I think we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror and do our best to support each other and continue to make the necessary decisions that are important to our family and to our community to ensure that we're all safe and we continue to help local businesses, restaurants, and support their needs, because obviously if we don't have them, that's going to be a significant impact to our local economy. So I just wanted to say that and make that comment, Reeve Bailey. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing any, we'll move along. There's no notice of motion tonight. So bylaw number 29, 2021 tax rate bylaw. Do I have a mover? I have Anita moving. I have Paul seconding. Carson, cheers.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that bylaw number 29, 2021, being a bylaw for the purposes of levying and collecting rates for various purposes and to provide for the payment of taxes and to provide for penalty and interest, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, be signed by the Reeve and Clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So, Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum? And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
11.2 bylaw number 30-2021 cannabis policy statement, that the bylaw number 30-2021 being a bylaw to adopt a cannabis policy statement for the corporation of the Township of North Huron be read a first, second, third, and final time, be signed by the Reeve. Oh, I don't have to read all that. Carson does. My apologies. Do I have a mover? I have Trevor moving. Do I have a seconder? I have Kevin seconding. Carson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So yeah, the motion on the floor is that bylaw number 30, 2021, being a bylaw to adopt a cannabis policy statement for the corporation of the Township of North Huron, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, be signed by the Reeve and Clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight? Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer? Councillor Heffer, I couldn't hear you there.
Oh.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-1 with the no being Councillor Heffer.
Thank you. 11.3 bylaw number 31-2021 curbside collection agreement for solid household waste and waste management of Canada Corporation. Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving. Mr. Heffer's moving. Seconder, please. Kevin Faulkner seconding. I'll hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that bylaw number 31, 2021, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve and Clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between the corporation of the Township of North Huron and Waste Management of Canada Corporation for curbside collection of household waste for a term of 5 years commencing May 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2026, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, be signed by the Reeve and Clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. 11.4 bylaw number 32-2021 curbside collection processing agreement with the receivable materials with Waste Management of Canada Corporation. Do I have a mover?
I'll move for discussion.
Can we discuss now, or can I get clarification from Carson?
To answer your question, Your Worship, if there's discussion to be had, yes, you can have that. So it's up to you of whether you want to get a mover and a seconder for that bylaw first, or have that discussion.
So I'm going to throw it over to you, Trevor, Deputy Reeve Sipe. Do you want to finish the first and second and then talk to it, or talk to it first?
It's really just a question. So it's really wanting to, and I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure I'm clear in understanding it. It's the question of why is it the curbside collection 3 years and the waste is 5? That's the only question I had. Is it because of the new legislation that's coming down the pipe as it relates to recyclables? Is that from the Ontario government? Is that the reason for the difference between 3 and 5 years? Is Jamie online?
Anyone can answer that from the staff?
Hi, Reeve Bailey.
Yep.
Through Reeve Bailey to Deputy Reeve Sipe. Yes, that's why. So the Recycling Council has the option of opting out and transitioning from recycling commencing the year 2023.
Thank you very much, Jamie.
Thank you very much, Jamie. This contract came back really swiftly, so I had to remember myself why the difference between the 3 and the 5. So thank you very much for the clarification.
No problem. Have a good night.
Thank you. So Deputy Reeve Sipe, you're still going to okay. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
I have Chris Palmer seconding. Go ahead, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that bylaw number 32, 2021, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve and Clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between the Corporation of the Township of North Huron and Waste Management of Canada Corporation for curbside collection and processing of recyclable materials for a term of 3 years commencing May 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2024. Be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, be signed by the Reeve and Clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Bylaw 11.5, bylaw number 33-2021, fire safety grant transfer payment agreement between the office and the fire marshal. The office of the fire marshal. Do I have a mover? I have Trevor Sipes moving. Seconder, please. I have Paul Heffer seconding. And I'll give it to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that bylaw number 33, 2021, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve and Clerk to sign on behalf of council a fire safety grant transfer payment agreement between the Corporation of the Township of North Huron and Her Majesty the Queen in Right of Ontario as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, be signed by the Reeve and Clerk, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. So Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Announcements. The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, May 3rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. through electronic participation. The next museum committee meeting will be held on Thursday, May 13th, 2021 at 2 p.m. through electronic participation. The next economic development and recovery committee will be held on Thursday, May 20th, 2021 at 2 p.m. through electronic participation. The next Wingham BIA board meeting will be held on Thursday, May 20th, 2021 at 6:30 through electronic participation. And the next Blythe BIA board meeting will be held on Thursday, April 29th, 2021 at 8 a.m. through electronic participation. Other business, request from Deputy Reeve Sipes that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a joint delegation invitation to Maitland River Elementary School, F.E. Medill Secondary School, and Sacred Heart Catholic School regarding their umbrella project and its progress. Trevor, would you like to speak to this before I ask for a mover and a seconder?
Absolutely. Thank you, Reeve. Because not only because of COVID-19, but ultimately, I think mental health has been a significant impact to the municipality and to the county, and ultimately to the province over the past number of years. A lot of it becomes a more heightened approach to mental health in society today. So one of the things that I am very cognizant of is any program or things that have staff, the public, but also children and youth who are involved in these projects to really produce this something to the council, so that they can get a sense of what our youth are learning about mental health, about their own well-being. And I can honestly tell you, I learned a lot of some of the kids that talked about this project have really opened my eyes in the sense that they are brighter beyond their years, in the sense of where they have come and knowing who they are, not only in their mental health, but also what they can do better at, what they can do, where they can do maintaining their overall mental health. So, this is a kind of a sense to get council an update on their project, providing something for the youth to show us how important their project is, and also maybe even consideration of getting council to support, providing their project with an input into the normal, into North Huron society, and how we can help support growing this project, not only in the schools, but also in the North Huron community as a whole.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Do I have a mover? I have Trevor Sipes moving. I have Anita Hittersum seconding. Carson, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So your motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a joint delegation invitation to Maitland River Elementary School, Effie Medill Secondary School, and Sacred Heart Catholic School regarding their umbrella project and its progress. So Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Confirmation bylaw number 34, 2021. That a bylaw number 34, 2021 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by the Council of the Township of North Huron at the April 19th, 2021 meeting, be introduced, read a first, second, and third, and final time, and be signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover? I have Mr. McBurney moving. I have Mr. Falconer seconding. Carson, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe?
Abstain due to conflict of interest.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Adjournment that the Council of Township of North Huron agrees that there being no further business before council, the meeting here ends at 8:04 p.m. Do I have a mover? Quicker, fellas. Kevin moves. Anita seconds. Carson takes over.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor McBurney?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sipe?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
Councillor Heffer?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
Stay
So that
safe.
motion carries 7-0.
Stay safe, everyone. We'll talk again. Bye-bye.